good ACO, good agentic commerce optimization is playbook specific, right? Good ACO on Amazon means optimizing for Alexa for shopping, while also keeping like the basic mechanics of like SEO and such. So it's like you're optimizing for two different layers, two distinct layers, but that are in symbiotic union with each other. So there's just a lot of different dimensions, each with a different playbook, same with Target, even going into like Shopify and stuff. But I'd say the main ones of Amazon, Walmart, and Target, I want to help prepare brands and give playbook specific practical strategies to equip them to be the best they possibly can on those platforms.
Welcome to Retail Playbook, provided by ReFiBuy. Hosted by top retail agent researcher Andrew Bell, Retail Playbook is your go-to resource for cutting-edge research, original content, and future-proof strategies to make sure your business is staying ahead of the competition. Welcome to the very first episode of Retail Playbook. I'm Scot 𝗙𝗵𝗶𝗲, CEO and co-founder of ReFiBuy, and also co-host of the Jason and Scot Show, as well as the host of the Agentic commerce podcast, Retailgentic. This new podcast that we're putting out, Retail Playbook, features Andrew Bell, who is a top expert in agentic commerce optimization, but not for answer engines. Where he focuses his ACO efforts is on AI-based retailer shopping agents like Rufus, or Alexa for shopping, as it's now called, Sparky over on Walmart, and the Target shopping assistant. Andrew's also going to be publishing a regular Retail Playbook Substack newsletter, where he will be heavily researching strategic playbooks, plus the tactics you need to optimize your 1P and or 3P product listings. So those agents that live on retailers like Alexa, Sparky, and TSA recommend your products first. Check out the pod and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to go to playbook.ai to subscribe to the Substack newsletter. Going forward, Andrew will do the introductions, but I thought I would jump in here and introduce the new podcast to you. I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. I'm really excited to see what Andrew puts out there. It's going to be very important for everyone that sells on these important agentic commerce optimization channels. Enjoy. Welcome to this episode of Retailgentic and the first episode of Retail Playbook. Today's guest is top Amazon agentic commerce voice, Andrew Bell. If our studio looks a little different to you, we are not Zoom, we're live here in person. It's actually the first time we've met each other IRL, so this has been a fun day. Andrew's down here in North Carolina, visiting the team and sharing his Amazon knowledge. We just announced him recently as our new VP of Research, and Andrew is joining ReFiBuy to help us get extremely smart about everything going on at the intersection of Amazon and AI, which used to be called Rufus and is now Alexa for shopping. Also today, we are announcing the launch of a new Substack and podcast. We call that a channel. So we have one channel that you know already, which is Retailgentic, and now we have a second channel, which is Retail Playbook. And Andrew will be your host for that new podcast. Andrew, welcome to Retailgentic, welcome to ReFiBuy, and congrats on the launch of your new channel.
Yeah, it's good. Thanks for having me, Scott. I appreciate that.
You've got a lot going on.
I do.
Are you having fun so far?
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, it's good. It's good stuff. Love the team, everything we're doing here, and we're on the cutting edge of everything. I'm a big fan of agentic commerce optimization. And your philosophy around it, and I wouldn't be here if I didn't think so.
Let's start by, since we have people's attention, I'm kind of mixing it up now that we're into it. Let's talk about what your vision is for Retail Playbook. How do you what's this new channel? How's it different than Retailgentic, and what are you going to focus on?
Well, it's playbook specific, to different marketplaces like Amazon, because good ACO, good agentic commerce optimization is playbook specific, right? Good ACO on Amazon means optimizing for Alexa for shopping, while also keeping like the basic mechanics of like SEO and such, because Amazon operates, for example, on what's called the A9 algorithm, which is their keyword search based algorithm. And then it also works on Alexa for shopping as well. So it's like you're optimizing for two different layers, two distinct layers, but that are in symbiotic union with each other. So I think like that's one aspect. Same goes with Walmart Sparky. They have their own algorithm when it comes to search, and they also have their own algorithm when it comes to Sparky and recommending products. And I imagine too, Sparky, joining forces with, when you're browsing through Walmart physically, and Sparky being right there on your phone, being able to talk and show you where products are, things like that. And of course, with Amazon's play, I think Alexa for Shopping is going to help with the same thing once they build their super centers that we hear about. So there's just a lot of different dimensions, each with a different playbook. Same with Target, even going into like Shopify and stuff. But I'd say the main ones of Amazon, Walmart, and Target, I want to help prepare brands and give playbook specific practical strategies to equip them to be the best they possibly can on those platforms.
Yeah, we call this strategy agentic commerce optimization everywhere, or ACO everywhere. A lot of people start with the exciting new thing, which is the answer engines, right? Which is what we focus on here at Retailgentic and at ReFiBuy. But then what we've discovered is the retailer hosted AI systems are very powerful because they're just sitting in that huge transaction flow. Amazon's like what, 400 billion a year. That's not even counting the GMV. That's actually smaller than it actually is because they only count their revenue of the GMV. That's their revenue number. So it's probably actually more like 600 billion or something. They're just a massive economic engine. And they've had some pretty big stats. You probably know these off the top of your head though. So Andy Jassy has been really promoting the artist previously known as Rufus pretty heavily. And so what was it? I saw they have 100 million folks going through there. They just announced that.
Yeah.
What else have you seen as far as some of the stats they throw around about how big this is?
I mean, it's giant. I mean, we're seeing conversion rates go up 60% overall on product pages in particular. I mean, like you said, hundreds of millions of users now using that. Ironically enough, I kind of knew that was the case because when I went to one of the engineers' LinkedIn's, you go in, you look under their product, the description of their job, and it kind of shows some of their accomplishments. And one of them said tens of millions of users responsible for that. So kind of an incidental detail, that I kind of found out. But I'm not surprised that this is happening. And I see Alexa for Shopping as very contextually rich as far as behavioral data goes for buying. Whereas like ChatGPT, for example, simply doesn't have that kind of data. And so having that kind of vertical agent, I think is very important. And bringing in Alexa too, really brings in the horizontal side of it. So now you have a horizontal vertical agent, right? You have that domain specificity and, that's going to happen too with them for music as well, for grocery and things like that. But I think, Alexa and different custom built models, right? So like Alexa for Shopping's built on Claude, it's built on its own custom model, it's built on Nova, their own proprietary. And I think with each of these models, like having the most important thing is having is your product being reasoned through, right? How is it being reasoned through? I think is very important.
What's your vision for the channel? Obviously, you talked about playbooks, but let's unpack that. So you've got a Substack. In your mind, why are playbooks so effective at helping people understand and actually do things?
Yeah, well, why did the Patriots always win the Super Bowl, right?
I guess you're a Patriots fan.
Well, Tom Brady fan. So, but yeah, having a specific playbook. For let's say defense against a really good offensive team, it's going to look much different than a playbook you might have against, someone that's better at running the ball or someone that's better at passing the ball. Or I like the example of think of the whole Jordan-LeBron thing. Jordan just lived in a different era, right? Where you had to shoot 2-pointers all the time, basically. Whereas now it's more spread and people are shooting 3-pointers. So how you play defense is different. Before it was man on man. Now it's a lot of zone defense. So kind of in the same way, think of every marketplace as an era, right, of basketball where you're adapting a playbook for that specific time and for that specific place.
What I like about your playbooks is they have a strategic piece to them, but then they have tactical. It's kind of like, here's the big pieces of the playbook, and then here's the individual things you need to do to be successful at those. So it's It's hard to write content that's kind of both strategic and tactical, but the playbooks you write achieve both.
As you know, like I can be very dense in a lot of my topics. I go through all the theoretical aspects, but then I'm able to put that in practical strategy from all my background that I've had at different brands, looking at different ASINs and being able to optimize those per platform, whether it be Amazon, Walmart, Target.
And on the podcast, what's your vision for that?
I think being able to bring people on that have hands-on knowledge like I did, hands-on practical knowledge of optimizing for products at different levels. And so bringing on people in the Amazon world that have this domain expertise that I know, right, to help inform our guests of what they can do, what's out there, how the Amazon world is vastly different from like, showing up on ChatGPT, for example, or showing up in Claude. Because even in ChatGPT and Claude, I mean, there's distinct, you would say, okay, yeah, there's distinct playbooks, but going into Alexa for shopping, there's an even more specific playbook because unlike like with Google for the longest time, started, going more semantic before Amazon did, right? You know this as well as I do. But Amazon has stayed relatively keyword based in a lot of ways. And so being able to optimize your products in such a way that's not irresponsible. And so like on Amazon, you want to be able to balance SEO, what's it called, GEO and AEO, really, which honestly, those three come together and form agentic commerce optimization. Good ACO on Amazon is good SEO.
So we're doing this kind of Christopher Nolan style. Now let's go. You obviously know a lot about this. Let's kind of figure out how you got here. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then how on earth do you know so much about how you optimize things for Amazon, Walmart, and the like?
I didn't even major in business, Scott. I studied ancient Greek and preaching at a Bible school. But if there's one thing I have, it's a self-taught spirit. I spent my waking days in Barnes & Noble, 6 months, and would read every book off the shelf in the business. And then I discovered online PDFs, and that kind of changed the game for me in terms of education. Learned everything I could about the business world. Ended up joining a company called Touch of Class, and was able to take them from zero, $100,000 per month to $4 million in annual revenue.
Yeah. What category were they in?
Luxury home decor. Okay. Unique luxury home decor. Covered about 30 different categories within home decor. And personally, let's say by hand, optimized 1,500 product detail pages. And then I was able to take that philosophy of product detail page optimization, put them into GBTs, or let's say at the time it was prompts. And when the GBT store came out, I was one of the first ones to put my GBTs out there. And all of a sudden, thousands and thousands of sellers started using. Even tens of thousands of sellers started using my GBTs. But then I began to see a picture of like building something so much more robust and something that has a lot of data in it as well. So I think there's that aspect, and it gave me all the experience I needed to for like, creating ad campaigns. I've created like 1,000 ad campaigns across sponsored products, brands, display. So basically, I'm going through this phase of building up my domain expertise within Amazon and within Walmart too, right? But Walmart has always been a laggard behind Amazon in terms of the tools that sellers are given, vendors are given, right, to be able to properly market the product.
Was Touch of Class 1P, 3P, or both?
3P.
3P, got it.
3P. Yeah, 3P company.
Yeah, we should say everything that we'll be covering here on Retail Playbook will be applicable to 1P and 3P. And so the audience is merchants of all size and shape. So big brands that don't sell direct, they're just wholesale through a retailer, all the way to smaller sellers that are selling 3P. Hopefully there'll be a little bit of something for everybody. I think if we have to pick one, it's going to be those brands, because that's where we're getting the most questions from people they're really leaning in and trying to figure out. Sometimes they have an acute problem, like we've seen. I've seen one where I can't remember which engine it was, but it was basically saying some chicken nuggets were vegan, for example, and obviously not right. Or there was one that said that a drink was kosher and it's not. So sometimes the engines do pick up some weird ideas about what's going on in the products. And that's the kind of thing that's part of optimization, is making sure it's not saying wacky stuff, but there's much more to that as well.
Yeah.
After Touch a Class, then where'd you go?
Touch a Class, I was a senior account manager for a company where I managed a number of different brands, but then I got an offer from NFPA, is the National Fire Protection Association, and they were a big brand looking to get sales on Amazon, and was they had a little bit of a more distinct problem with unauthorized resellers, and so I was able to build relationships with high-level Amazon contacts and essentially get it done and make sure that we had the proper content. We had the we were of course in Amazon brand registry, and we decided that we need to get rid of these unauthorized resellers. And I can't go much more into that with this part, but I can tell you that it's led to an exponential amount in sales, and our buy box increasing threefold, which is very essential, especially for 3P. But all the while this is happening, I have my own consulting gigs where I worked with 1P companies, 7, 8, 9, and even a couple 10-figure brands.
Yeah, and then so you started doing your GPTs, and then you started writing the playbooks, and you have a LinkedIn newsletter called Amazon Science, or Science of Amazon.
It started Amazon Science Made Simple, but then it quickly became, I should have called it Amazon Patents Made Simple, because really I unfold a lot of patents. But here's the thing, science papers also inform patents. Amazon science papers inform patents. Patents I consider a main source of truth, because that's actual deployable technology from Amazon. Amazon science papers point to the future of Amazon, of where it's going, right? But you can catch on to cues. So for a patent that recently came out, there was a paper done on it in 2023, right? That data supported what was in the patent today. So it kind of to show you there's a 2 to 3 year gap between a patent and research done.
Yeah.
And
so research first.
Yes, research first.
Does research always turn into a patent, or is there a?
Not always, especially if it failed. Most science papers, I have levels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 is completely deployable, or has been deployed, and it's showing data results from it. So I look at it from the perspective of, is it level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Most are level 2 and 3. Most are level 2 and 3.
So when these patents come out, you're actually poking at the user interface to see if it's live or not. Because I imagine some patents, you don't have to implement a patent. It can just be an idea you want to preserve and protect IP on.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
What percent of patents get implemented? Do you have a rough estimate?
Probably couldn't give you a rough estimate, because I only look at the ones that I know for sure implemented. I look through every single patent myself. I don't read every single one of them. I have a method I go through, but I do look through all the figures that initially come up. I don't want to, maybe between you and I, if you cut this out, I don't know, but every Tuesday is Patent Tuesday for me.
Ooh, okay.
Where every accepted patent, actually, granted patent comes out, and then every non-granted patent comes out on a Thursday. And I look at them between them, Walmart, which is intensifying their patent production, whereas before they didn't have that level of production. But yeah, with Amazon, what's really important is there's no company under the planet, maybe Google, that has as much research and has as many patents going out. And I think that predicts patents are Amazon's playbook of the future, right? Detailed explanations of really how engineers think through problems too, because you have to get the wording right as well. And sometimes they can be broad too, but I think we see ourselves moving toward use case-based language all over in product pages, right? Across the title, across bullets, across A+ content, across videos even. And even though videos aren't technically indexable, they are becoming that, and I intend to predict that. And one example of it's the playbook of the future is if a year ago I actually predicted this, Scott, that Alexa and Rufus would basically fuse together into something, right? Rufus's product intelligence with Alexa's superior personalization abilities as well.
I think it's the exact opposite.
It's the exact opposite.
I feel like they're doubling down.
It's because it works.
Yeah.
There's a reason why, if anyone's tracked Rufus more than anybody, I can guarantee you that being on my phone 30 minutes every day, looking and testing Rufus, sometimes 2 hours a day, if I'm really doing heavy research, I can tell you that it's increased its coverage everywhere, right?
It's gotten much better.
Yeah. First it was on the, we had it in the product page, then it started coming on search results page, then it started coming on the home page, right? We're seeing it everywhere. In fact, there's 3 placements of Rufus on the product page itself.
In the mobile app, it's got the star position in the bottom right where your thumb is. So
exactly.
That's the pole position. That's the place to be.
Yeah. And even now we see it triggering in search results too, across many queries, usually more broad, nothing real specific yet. But I anticipate this happening. And so looking at the digital shelf now, seeing it as, where you're ranking. So like with Alexa for shopping, yes, it pulls in search results from A9 algorithm, right? Products, you have the normal ranking, but after it gets that pool of products in there, it has its own ranking criteria based on context of the prompt, context of the user, and personalization from Alexa to be able to put the proper products in there. So you might have a pool of 100 products from search results, right? But then it narrows it down to 30 or 20. But all we know for sure is it then produces the best 8, about the best 8, 5 to 8 products.
I think that we may have a world where the search engine kind of melds, it kind of fuses, to use your word as well, where you no longer have like Rufus and the old search. I think the old search doesn't get replaced, but increasingly Rufus handles
it
a lot more of it.
Because that's the biggest problem. I mean, think of the mom. I use my mom, for example, who, I have diverse interests. My brother-in-law has diverse interests. My sister does. My sister had, like I said, certain kind of makeup, so she has to search that brand on Amazon. This particular query, but I need it to be cruelty-free, let's say, right? And then me, I love Legos, but my mom knows I like Marvel Legos. And so instead of her having to type in all these search terms, Alexa for Shopping knows to do that search query plan, to go and perform the shopping mission, right? To do those search queries and to grab the product results from there.
Alexa for Shopping. It's going to take me years to stop saying it. I don't know how you do it. In some ways, it's actually better at, so there's a set of people I argue with, and they say, no, agentic commerce is you don't touch anything. And in some ways, Amazon's closer to this full autonomy because they have that feature where you can basically set a price trigger, and in there you can say, yes, when it hits this, buy it for me. Yep. And there's no like 6, are you sure? Are you really, really, really sure? It just fires.
My wife is actually tired of all the notifications on our Alexa in the bedroom because every notification is, hey, you have a buying alert, something's on sale.
Yeah, because you just signed up for so many of them. Exactly. Yeah, hopefully you didn't set the automatically buy on all of them.
No, not yet.
And then you were the first person I know that discovered Sparky was live on the web. I think was that this week or last week? It all blurs together. So what are some interesting things that you've noticed about Sparky?
Sparky, you can tell it's not near as sophisticated in terms of the data it's bringing in. It hallucinates a little bit more than Alexa for Shopping does. And I think a lot of it has to do, again, to look at the power of a company, you look at their patent architecture, it's just not near as sophisticated as Amazon. And you can tell what they're doing compared to Amazon is relatively primitive in comparison, which makes sense because they don't even have like a huge science division like Amazon does in terms of like search science, right? But at the same time, it's increasing because of their partnerships with, for example, with OpenAI. And I think with their willingness to adopt the Universal Commerce Protocol as well, very clearly, I think that's going to give them a slight advantage, and Sparky being implemented within there. And I imagine Sparky GPT is being used behind Sparky. The best evidence shows that GPT 5.1 at scale is the best shopping. I don't know. It could be that still. It was a month ago.
That's browser-based kind of stuff. Right?
Now browser-based, yeah. That's browser-based for action-based, yep.
I have a theory about why Amazon joined UCP, and I think our theories differ. What's your theory?
Yeah, my theory is so that products from Alexa, it could be relative to, okay, Sparky now is going to go into OpenAI. Well, now Alexa for shopping is going to go into OpenAI, and that's very possible. But if you saw the recent title change, I think this could be Amazon's play at UCP because in the email, it said not just to be readable on mobile, but to be consistent with other online stores. So having that consistency is a big level, I believe, when it comes to UCP and providing the data they want. So they don't have to provide all the ingested data to those feeds, right? Like title, bullet points, A+ content. They can give them what they want. They can give them the title and the item highlights, which they deem, okay, that's enough for them to have.
So you're seeing that as a signal Amazon's going to publish this stuff out?
Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so mine's, this will be fun. We'll see who's right. Who's the better predictor? I have more years at this, but then you have more Amazon knowledge, so we'll see how it goes. So I think there's this famous, I call it the Death Star diagram, and it's the flywheel diagram where in the industry lore goes that Jeff Bezos drew it on a napkin diagram. And this napkin actually exists somewhere at Amazon. I haven't seen it, but it's supposedly framed. And in there, it talks about, it was the whole idea for the marketplace that was kind of born. They started working on it in 2004. We had access to it at Channel Advisor early. And then in 2006, they really leaned into it. And it basically says, let's see if I can do it from memory. So in the middle is the customer, and then it has, more merchants bring more selection, which means, and then there's a spur that kind of like they compete for lower prices. And then that improves customer satisfaction. So it's kind of around this idea that consumers love selection, convenience, and that's kind of like Prime brings that from the side, and low prices. Those are things that they never get tired of. So embedded in the DNA of Amazon is they worry a lot about selection, and it always drives them crazy when a brand won't sell on Amazon. So kind of a famous one is Nike's been on and off, and that drives them crazy. And then another big one is Birkenstock. They've always kind of had, and there's a knife company. There's some kind of famous ones. So I think that they're worried that they see Gemini coalescing, Google coalescing this kind of Battlestar Galactica against, or the rebels against their Death Star, for lack of a better metaphor. Same thing. And they're starting to see, well, there's a big pool of inventory out there that we can't get to, because there's like another one that's kind of famous is Lululemon has never sold on Amazon. Now you can find it on there through occasional third-party sellers, but it's not like the brand and official.
There's no brand registry or anything.
Yeah. So I think what they're doing is, I think Shop Direct is them defending against that, to your point about the playbook. Yeah. And I think they're saying, how do we pull that part of the Venn diagram that's not in our Venn diagram into our Venn diagram? And they have this Shop Direct, which is this new, we always had 1P and 3P and different flavors of FBA and Prime eligibility inside of those two programs. Well, now there's this third program, and it kind of doesn't make sense to some degree, because there's a world where it's like actually the most attractive program. So every brand should be doing it, because you don't pay Amazon anything, it's free. So that's pretty good. You can set the price, which a lot of vendors don't like in 1P. And you can even have, there's an agentic checkout. It's a small subset in the buy for me. But I think that's what they're trying to do, is surface inventory not on Amazon inside. And I think they'll have you buy that through UCP. So I think they'll have you be able to buy that in Amazon through UCP, but they're gonna flip it from kind of what you're saying. They're gonna pull UCP into Amazon. Whereas you're kind of saying publish out. Now the other option is they can do both, and we can both be right. So we'll see.
I'd say, I see what you mean. So it's all consistent with online stores, and those show up too. So
and it comes from, and I think their other fear, and this kind of is my thinking around the Alexa thing. I think their other fear is being attacked from the sides, because ChatGPT just released some information that 20% of their conversations have a commerce intent in them at some point. Yeah. But when you look at this, when you look at the data, they only like 2% start there, which is really interesting. So, but what'll happen is someone will say, people have conversations with ChatGPT they would never have with certainly Amazon, and maybe even Alexa. Like, I don't use my Alexa for general knowledge. Everyone's use differs. It was so bad at it, I've been trained not to.
Alexa Plus is pretty good.
It is, yeah. But I think the But anyway, so
but mass adoption wise,
yeah,
I agree with you.
It's kind of like music and shopping list and
Yeah.
checking status orders is like what I think most people use it for. Maybe the weather or something like that. And so I think they're worried about not even having a shot at, if someone's having a conversation about a home improvement project with ChatGPT, they will have the first shot at putting a product into that conversation should it go there. Whereas Amazon may never see that. And I think that's another thing they're worried about. So I think they're going to start pushing Alexa further into those informational queries, and therefore having one common brand across all that will actually attack them from a more horizontal attack.
Yeah, I think that spread out, because they already got the vertical angle. I think they're superior when it comes to that. But as far as now that depends what kind of data Shopify too is willing to share. I think that's one thing to consider as well with ChatGPT. But I think overall, Amazon has the best shopping domain specific expert, right? In Rufus, or Alexa for shopping, that is.
So let's go back to Retail Playbook. So you're having, by the time folks see this, your first Substack should be out. Give us a little taste of what you're going to be writing in your first Substack.
Well, Alexa for shopping. If you notice, I published the Alexa for shopping blueprint. Yep. Part 1, and this is going to be part 2 of that, where I'm going to go into actual practical strategies that you can implement there, and how ACO makes sense with an Amazon framework.
Just 2.0 build on 1.0, or is it kind of like hey, here's the new, this is a replacement, is it more of a replacement?
Oh, it builds on. Okay. Yeah, it's way more practical. It's, I was thinking about it coming out with certain custom GBTs as well to go with it. To basically turning the philosophy of those papers into that. And so part 2 will focus heavily on strategy with accompanying GBTs to go with it. I'm going to get into the topic of what's called query planning optimization. So we talked about how, the burden of search reformulations, where my mom's having to type in a bunch of different searches to get products. Instead, Alexa for shopping is doing that. So it's not so much about, are you showing up on the search term, but from the intent and context of the prompt, are you showing up across all of these search terms combined together, right? Are you within that shopping mission?
Cool. So we were super excited when you accepted the offer. It's been fun. I think we're 3 weeks in, and I've already learned a ton from you. Hopefully you're having fun as well. I know you're like wound up like a snake ready to strike, because you've been wanting to get this channel live and you're so excited. So congrats on the launch of that. So that's awesome. We're real excited to have you. If folks want to follow what you're doing, what should they do?
Well, subscribe to my Substack. And then also you can follow me on LinkedIn. Don't forget to subscribe, to the newsletter there. I post regularly updates on Amazon Rufus. And if you want an accurate answer on everything Alexa for shopping, go to my DM, ask me a question. But yeah, Scott, super excited to be a part of ReFiBuy, which is the future of, well, you coined the term, didn't you? Agentic commerce optimization. Yeah. A lot of the part of the reason I'm here is because of you, and I believe in your philosophy, and I believe it's the right one based on all the research and everything that I've done.
So reminder, everyone, let's help Andrew launch this channel with a lot of success. Retail Playbook, either .com or .ai. Those are both live. Subscribe to the Substack, subscribe to the YouTube, go subscribe to the LinkedIn, and we look forward to a successful launch and seeing what kind of awesome content you have. If optimizing Amazon, Walmart, Target, or any of these things are important to you as a brand or a third-party seller, you came to the right place. So sign up today. And thanks, Andrew. Look forward to seeing what you do with the channel.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it.